What if everything you thought you knew about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle was only half the story because a new book by Tom Bower is making claims so intense they are sending shockwaves through royal circles, from alleged behind-the-scenes tensions to questions about power, influence, and decisions that changed everything? This story goes far deeper than headlines, and what comes next might completely change how you see it. So stay with me, because the biggest revelation is still ahead. The moment Tom Bower revealed details from his explosive book Betrayal, everything changed, because what was once whispered behind palace walls suddenly became global conversation. And what makes this even more intense is that the story does not begin with scandal, but with a question: what really happened to Prince Harry and Meghan Markle behind closed doors? Because according to these claims, there were growing concerns from within the royal family that something was shifting, something subtle at first, then undeniable, and it all centers around influence, power, and identity, with one of the most shocking alleged remarks coming from Queen Camilla, who reportedly believed Harry was no longer the same person, and that belief alone sets the tone for everything that follows, because if true, it suggests a deeper transformation, one that insiders claim created distance, tension, and quiet division. And just when it seems like this is only about family dynamics, the story pulls you into a larger narrative, one involving ambition, global image, and control, where every appearance, every speech, and every move begins to feel like part of something bigger, something calculated. And that is where the tension builds, because at a global summit designed to inspire young leaders, Meghan reportedly shifted focus toward her own journey, raising questions about intention, perception, and message. And while supporters saw confidence, critics saw something else entirely. And this moment becomes important later because it connects to a recurring theme in the book: the idea that every public move had layers, meaning, and strategy. And just when you think you understand the dynamic, the story shifts again to a private meeting shortly after the royal wedding, where tensions reportedly surfaced between Harry and Prince William, a moment described as uncomfortable, unexpected, and unresolved. And what stands out most is not just the disagreement, but the silence that followed, because silence in moments like that often says more than words. And from that point forward, the distance between the brothers allegedly grew, creating a divide that would later become impossible to ignore. As the narrative unfolds, the focus turns toward ambition and long-term vision, because according to the book, Meghan was not simply adjusting to royal life, but reimagining her place within it and beyond it, with claims suggesting she saw a path toward global influence in media, fashion, and philanthropy, but not within the traditional structure of the monarchy. And this is where the story deepens, because it introduces the idea that leaving royal duties was not just a reaction, but possibly part of a broader strategy. And if that is true, it reframes everything from interviews to business deals to public appearances, and suddenly every decision feels interconnected and intentional, while Harry is portrayed as someone navigating two worlds, one defined by duty, tradition, and family, and the other by independence, identity, and a new kind of influence. And this internal conflict becomes one of the most compelling parts of the story, because it raises a question that viewers keep asking: was this transformation gradual, or was it driven by circumstances that outsiders never fully understood? And just as that question begins to settle, the narrative introduces another layer involving fear, specifically the reported concern that future decisions by William as king could impact Harry's titles and position. And while nothing is confirmed, the mere possibility adds tension, because it represents a turning point where personal relationships intersect with institutional authority. And that is where the stakes feel highest, because this is no longer just about family disagreement, but about legacy, identity, and belonging. And as if that were not enough, the book also claims that media timing and public visibility became strategic tools, with certain releases allegedly aligning with major royal events, creating moments where attention shifted dramatically. And Whether coincidence or calculation, the effect was undeniable because in a world driven by headlines, timing can shape perception and perception can shape reality, and that is exactly what keeps viewers watching because every detail feels like a piece of a much larger puzzle. The story then moves into a more complex phase focusing on public image control and behind-the-scenes decisions where events that appear polished and inspiring on screen are described differently in private with claims of strict media management, controlled access, and carefully curated environments, and this contrast between appearance and reality becomes a central theme because it challenges viewers to question what they see versus what might actually be happening, and at the same time financial pressures are introduced, adding another dimension to the narrative because maintaining a global profile comes with significant costs, and according to the book, changing partnerships and shifting revenue streams created new challenges that required adaptation and reinvention, and this is where the tension builds again because reinvention in the public eye is never simple, especially when expectations are high and scrutiny is constant, and from lifestyle branding to entertainment projects, each move is described as part of an effort to redefine identity and maintain relevance. And while some initiatives gained attention, others reportedly struggled to meet expectations, leading to questions about sustainability, direction, and long-term impact. And just when it feels like the narrative might slow down, it introduces moments of public perception that quickly turn into global discussion, including appearances at major events where attention shifts from purpose to presentation, and that shift becomes important because it reflects how quickly narratives can change in the digital age, where one image, one headline, or one detail can reshape the entire conversation. And this constant cycle of attention, reaction, and reinterpretation is what keeps audiences engaged because it creates a sense that the story is still unfolding, still evolving, and far from over. As the final layer begins to form, the focus returns to relationships, both public and private, with reported moments of tension, brief glimpses of disagreement, and interactions that spark widespread speculation. And while none of these moments define a relationship, they contribute to a broader narrative that audiences continue to follow closely. And that is where the suspense truly takes hold, because despite everything that has been said, written, and claimed, there is still uncertainty, still unanswered questions, and still a sense that more could be revealed at any moment. And this is reinforced by reports of brief reunions, formal conversations, and interactions that feel more official than emotional, creating a contrast between expectation and reality. And as viewers process all of this, the story circles back to where it began, with the idea of transformation, influence, and perception, because at its core, this is not just a story about controversy, but about change, identity, and the challenge of navigating public life under constant observation. And just when it feels like the narrative has reached its peak, it introduces the possibility of a future return, a new chapter that could redefine everything once again. And that possibility creates a loop, bringing viewers back to the central question: what really happened behind the scenes, and what might happen next? As this story continues to unfold, it becomes clear that what keeps audiences watching is not just the claims or the headlines, but the unanswered questions that remain at the center of it all, because every new detail adds another layer without fully closing the narrative. And that sense of mystery is what creates lasting engagement from viewers around the world, whether people see this as a story of transformation, ambition, or misunderstanding. It highlights how complex public life can become when personal decisions intersect with global attention and constant media coverage. And it also shows how perception can evolve over time, shaped by new information, shifting perspectives, and ongoing discussion. At the same time, it is important to remember that many of these claims come from interpretations and reported accounts rather than confirmed facts, and that balance is essential for maintaining a fair and respectful conversation, especially on platforms like YouTube, where content must remain responsible and suitable for a wide audience, and as more developments emerge, viewers will continue to form their own opinions based on what they see, hear, and believe. But one thing is certain: this story is far from over, and the next chapter could change everything once again, which is exactly why so many people are still watching closely, waiting for what comes next. As this story draws to a close, what stands out most is not just the intensity of the claims, but the bigger picture they create around Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. The narrative presented in Tom Bower's book raises questions about identity, influence, and the pressures that come with living under constant global attention. Every chapter seems to point toward a deeper transformation, one shaped by personal choices, public expectations, and the challenge of balancing private life with worldwide scrutiny. Whether viewers agree or disagree with these claims, the impact of such discussions is undeniable, as they continue to shape how audiences interpret the couple's journey. At the same time, it is important to approach these revelations with balance. Much of what has been discussed is based on reported accounts and interpretations rather than confirmed facts, and that distinction matters. In a media landscape driven by headlines and fast-moving narratives, context can often be lost. By understanding that these perspectives represent one version of events, viewers can engage more thoughtfully and avoid jumping to conclusions. This approach not only aligns with responsible content creation, but also ensures that conversations remain respectful and suitable for a broad audience. Ultimately, this ongoing story reflects something larger than any single claim. It highlights how modern public figures navigate fame, criticism, and evolving expectations in real time. As new developments continue to emerge, the conversation will likely evolve, bringing fresh insights and perspectives. For now, one thing remains clear: the story is still unfolding, and audiences around the world will continue watching closely, waiting to see what the next chapter reveals.